Hi, my name's Aiden.
And I'm Jake.
And welcome to History and Haunts. Welcome back, everyone, to week 5 now of History and Haunts.
Oh, man, I can't believe you made it this far.
That's like a whole month, plus a week.
Yep. Okay. I thought you would have stopped these by now.
Did you really?
I don't know.
You had that little faith in me?
Well, you don't have a very high attention span.
You know what? Good point. 2 weeks in and I'm on to the next project. Happy Thanksgiving.
It's not a joke. That is not a joke.
It's not a joke.
I don't know why you're laughing. It's not a joke.
Because it was funny. But it's true. Anyway, happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yes. Happy holidays.
I hope you had a nice Thanksgiving yesterday. I was at work. It's so weird because today is Wednesday when we're recording this, and I'm having to talk in the past tense.
You know what's so funny? What? Is like, if you've watched any YouTube video ever, this is a pretty common thing.
No, it's very common because no one records it on the day that they're posting it. But it's just weird to have to do,
Yeah. Today is Wednesday.
Tomorrow's Thanksgiving. We've already celebrated our Thanksgiving, in case anyone was wondering, because I work tomorrow.
Yep.
We did 2 Thanksgivings, actually, and it was beautiful because I love Thanksgiving and I love Thanksgiving food.
Can you say Thanksgiving one more time, please?
Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We did one at my mom's, and then we did our first Thanksgiving, where, we cooked shit.
Yep.
I thought we were successful.
It was pretty good.
Tell them what we made.
Stuffing, Brussels sprouts, bacon, macaroni and cheese, green bean casserole, and Harris hens.
Cornish hens. And rolls. I made rolls.
Rolls.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it was pretty good. And then you made these pumpkin bars.
Oh, God. I don't want to talk about those.
That's fine. You don't have to. They're delicious.
Oh, yeah. If you pretend it's not supposed to be cake and just pretend it's supposed to be pumpkin pie, it's good. But knowing that it's supposed to be cake, it's a letdown. But he really loves them, so I guess that's all that matters.
Tear it up.
I tear it up?
I do.
Yeah, I tear up my mom's cake because that thing was really good.
I know. You just picked the frosting out of the middle, so it looks like a rat was eating the cake.
I don't think it's frosting, though. It's like a jam or something. I need to ask her for the 5th time what it is, because I just can't remember.
Every slice I've had has had no filling in the center.
It's funny.
Because it looks like a rat ate the center filling.
I am the rat who loves the center filling.
What did we learn about today, man?
Yeah, let's stop talking about Thanksgiving.
No one wants to hear this.
I didn't know how to segue, so I just kept going. Today, we are traveling to the oldest city in the U.S. Jake really likes it here.
One of my favorite places.
I really like it here. And we're traveling to his favorite building, right? I think it's your favorite.
Favorite fort.
Yeah, he's the one who told me about this place. I didn't know about it until he told me.
Mm-hmm.
We are traveling to St. Augustine. I love St. Augustine.
But more specifically,
the Castillo de San Marcos, which is a fort. Also, if anyone's going to St. Augustine and wants to stay at a hotel, I highly recommend Mile Marker 8 Hotel in Marina.
It was probably the best hotel that I've stayed in, just based off of the location. It's a bridge away from downtown.
And the bridge is not very long.
It's less than, I'd say, half a mile. Yeah, it's so close. It was cheap. The view is beautiful.
Everyone gets their own little balcony or porch looking out at the bay.
Yep.
And the best part, they have hotel breakfast, but it's not hotel breakfast like you would think. They cook you a breakfast, fresh to order every morning. And they have the most delicious little dessert thing for breakfast. It's called a berry blitz.
Okay.
Anyway, 10 out of 10.
They get it. They get it. It's a great hotel. What are we learning about today?
Please sponsor us so we can come back.
We'll be coming back regardless.
But it'd be great if it was free because it was sponsored. Anyway. They're not listening to this. No one's
listening to this. No. It's only you and myself.
Correct. Even my family.
I'll text Corley to listen.
Yeah, please text anyone so we get more than one. Listen. Anyway, Castillo de San Marcos is a symbol of the Spanish Empire's 300-year occupancy of Florida. It has a very dark history because the fort was built by slaves, and it's also the location of various deaths and the imprisonment of many Native Americans from various tribes. So, not good. The Castillo de San Marcos is the oldest masonry fort in the continental U.S., and it's built out of coquina, which is a unique type of limestone made from crushed seashells. Yes. What a tongue twister that is.
Seashells.
It's worse than seashells by the seashore.
Okay.
Coquina is actually like super strong. That's why they built...
You talking about cocaine?
No. That is a strong drug, though. Coquina. You'll see a lot of forts have like these shell type walls. It looks like cement with shells in it. It's because they're super, super strong. So, yeah.
You talking about those walls that like are decayed with shells in them?
Yes. Very strong. I mean, this fort's really old. It's impressive that it's even still there.
Yeah, and especially the conditions it's in too. It's nice.
Also,
when we were there, they were actively restoring it as well, though, like drilling like steel beams and stuff into it.
Yeah, and being right on the ocean makes it hard, you know?
Wasn't it like
on buildings?
Wasn't it like brackish though?
Yeah, because it's
Not
in
like
the bay.
Ocean, really.
But still, I think it's still tough on it. And you got to think that it's been bombarded by, warships or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. I forgot to mention, I said St. Augustine is the oldest city in the United States, but I didn't say when it was formed. It was formed in 1565. It became like a city or whatever at that date. The fort, it's in a star-shaped design, which many forts are, and that helps to prevent blind spots. And it was inspired by a design that originated in Italy during the 15th century. It sits on the shore of the Matanza Bay, which is fed by the Matanza River. This actually translates the word Matanza, which I'm probably not saying it appropriately, that if it's a translation. I don't know how you say it, didn't look that up, but it translates to massacre or carnage river. So that's pretty
interesting.
Pretty crazy. The story about how the river got this name is that in 1565, Pedro Menendez de Aviles of Spain and his forces were ordered to kill hundreds of shipwrecked Protestants. And so there was a massacre, hence the name.
Yeah.
This occurred only a few miles from where the Castillo sits today. Now, the Spanish influence in Florida began a long, long time ago, all the way back in 1513. So, like 500 years ago. Juan Ponce de Leon discovered the Florida Peninsula originally. It was a very costly expedition that did not prove fruitful, so King Philip II stopped the trips. But 3 years later, in 1516, France decided to take up on this opportunity and settle Florida. So they built Fort Caroline on the St. Johns River. Spain wasn't too happy about this because, they were like, man, why is those French people here now? I wanted to be there, but they weren't successful.
Okay.
So the king commissioned Pedro Menendez de Aviles to get the French out of there. And it took them a really long time. But by 1565, they were successful and they established San Augustine, hence the name St. Augustine. In the first 100 years of St. Augustine, Spain only had wooden buildings, so obviously those were easily destroyed. Fire, I would assume, would be a big hazard.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mr. Fireman, do you have any input on that?
What are you talking about?
I swear, this man does not listen to anything while I'm recording these podcasts, and that's why he always just says, "Oh, yeah."
What were you just talking about? I'll answer the question. Just what was it about?
I was saying that fire would pose a big risk to wooden buildings.
Yes, you don't need to be a fireman to understand that.
I just thought maybe you could put some more input into that.
There is no further input that is needed.
Great.
Wood is combustible material,
Yes. I also figured it's probably like weaker, maybe, if you're getting like what are those things called? Not bombs. The things that you shoot out, like cannonballs. If you're shooting cannonballs at them, I feel like it's probably less sturdy compared to like coquina.
Not necessarily.
Oh, really?
I don't know if you remember.
South Carolina.
Yeah, what was the wood that they used? The
palm.
It's the palm. The
ugly ass
South
palm.
Carolina
The
state flag. What is that? A palm? That's a palmetto? Palmetto?
Yeah, a palmetto.
They used palmetto to as barricades for that. What's that fort out there? Fort Meade?
Fort Mifflin.
Fort Mifflin.
Right?
Yes.
No, that's the one. Is that the one in Pennsylvania?
Was that on his podcast? We're talking about this on the podcast. Wait, what's the other fort?
Fort Sumter. That's the one we went to.
Okay.
Right?
Yes, and they used palmetto trunks to like reinforce the fort. So when cannonballs were shot at it like
they bounced off.
They bounced off, basically.
Yeah. I guess I don't really think of like palmettos as wood though, but I guess maybe it is. It's a tree.
Mm-hmm.
All right, they're the exception. That's why they're so hard to get rid of when they're in your yard.
Yep.
Also, during the time when Spain was here, there was continuous raids from pirates and the English, so they really just had a tough time. By 1672, they were over it, and they requested funding from Spain to build something more permanent, and that is when they started building the Castillo. This took 23 years to complete, and it was built by slaves owned by the Spanish. The walls were about 14 feet thick, and thanks to the coquina, they actually absorbed the impact of the cannonballs and did not break the building. So I guess similar to the palmetto. I don't know if they bounced off, but it spread out the impact. So that's cool.
And if the walls are 14 feet thick, you could probably shoot anything at that thing.
It's like as thick as this room.
No,
it's bigger.
Thicker. This room is 11 feet. Our master bedroom is 11 feet by 11 feet.
No, is it really?
It is, I swear.
So these walls were thicker than this bedroom. I feel like I can hear you slurping coffee every time. So I apologize, everyone, to the two people that are listening.
I almost choked. I'm sorry.
If you can hear him slurping the coffee. Those are some pretty thick walls, though. It's insane.
Yep.
They did say, though, that some cannonballs got stuck in the wall. So some of them bounced off, but some were embedded in the wall, which I think's cool.
You hit anything at the right angle,
Yeah. There was an attack in 1702 by the English, and they burned the city, but the Castillo survived, probably because it wasn't wood anymore. It was that strong stuff.
Coquina,
yep. During this attack, there was actually a 2-month siege, and over 1,500 people stayed in the fort. So that was a packed fort.
Yeah. Yeah, because after being there and walking around, I don't know how 1,500 people fit there.
No, I bet disease was running rampant.
Yes, very.
Oh my God, and where did they all pee?
I don't even know, where did they sleep? There wasn't enough room for 1,500 people to sleep.
On the stairs, on top of each other, I don't know. The fort did not typically house soldiers and was used for housing residents of St. Augustine when the city was under attack. So I guess this was a pretty common occurrence, we'll say, because the residents were actually pretty well protected here. So they would move there to be protected rather than stay in their homes. I don't know what their homes were made out of. Maybe they were still built out of wood and whatnot. So
thatch roofs, maybe,
Is that a thing in Florida or just overseas? I don't know.
I would imagine whatever is cheap at the time and
Yeah.
plenty of.
I guess I just feel like I hear about thatched roofs like in Scotland. Maybe they're here
I would
too.
imagine not necessarily.
Maybe they're just not preserved here, so we don't see them. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. In 1740, so 38 years after this first siege, there was another siege which lasted 3 months. The residents moved in again, but hundreds of them died from starvation and cholera. So there was, like I said, disease running rampant just because so many people were in such close proximity.
Yeah. You know what, though? They had a good plumbing system for, like, the bathrooms. Do you remember?
Wasn't it like a room that you just shit in?
It was a room where they defecated in, but it was, like, down this hole. And when it went down the hole, like, the water would come in and sweep it out, like, when the tide came in. So it would, like, wash away all of the...
I do remember that.
Poop.
That was actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
What a smart system, am I right?
Yeah.
Spain held control until 1763, and this is when the 7 Years' War ended and the British ended up taking control, and it was renamed Fort St. Mark at the time. The British did not make any repairs to the structure since they were the only imperial power in the US, or what would be the US, so they didn't feel like spending the money when there was no threat to them. Little did they know, though. The American Revolutionary War really threw them for a loop because they were no longer the only power source there. The British used the fort to hold troops, weapons, and prisoners, which is pretty common for forts. That's just what they were used for. British loyalists stayed within the fort to protect themselves, but eventually the British were kicked out of the country, and Florida was returned to Spain in 1784 thanks to the Treaty of Paris. Which I'd have to look that up more. I have no idea what that is.
I've heard of it, but from, like, back in school.
Yeah, well, I guess I didn't listen in school because I don't remember anything about it.
I don't remember nothing about it either.
Yeah. So during the Second Spanish occupation, which occurred after the British after the British got kicked out, St. Augustine was very diverse. There was Native Americans living there was slaves, free African Americans, British colonists, and even immigrants from Italy, Greece, Germany, France, and Ireland. It was like the original melting pot.
Wow.
That's what the U.S. is called.
Yeah, the melting pot?
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called these days.
I think it's still called the melting pot.
Is it?
Yeah. People just probably don't use that term that much anymore. The Spanish offered freedom to runaway slaves and encouraged them to seek safety in Florida, but they would have to convert to Catholicism and swore allegiance to Spain in order to be freed. And when they were given arms and supplies. So I guess that depends on how religious you are, because you have to leave your religion, but you get your freedom. So are you really free? I guess you are in an extent. It was a tough time back then.
Yeah.
Plantation owners from northern Georgia came in and they attacked Florida in order to get their what are now freed people back. Due to the American encroachment, Spain was also having financial troubles, and they were also dealing with revolutions in other Spanish territories. Florida was given to the U.S. thanks to the Adams-Onis Treaty. Also don't know what that treaty is. There's a lot of treaties is what I'm learning.
Very much so. None of them.
Nope. I'm trying to think of one treaty I know, and I can't think of one.
Do you know what the 7th Amendment is?
Is that... No.
Me neither.
Damn. You know what I think about sometimes? I could not pass the American citizen test, I bet.
I'd have to see if I can.
We should do that one time, see if we could.
Sure.
The U.S. renamed it to Fort Marion, and President Monroe thought that acquiring Florida would kind of calm things down with the Seminole Native Americans, but it didn't really. Andrew Jackson was sent to govern St. Augustine, which was probably like the worst idea ever that the U.S. had.
Why?
Because it didn't calm things down. I don't know why.
What year is this?
This is That's a great question. I don't know. Let's see if I can find it in here somewhere. It's sometimes after 1821.
Okay.
So, at some point between that time and, I guess, 1883 or something. Anyway, the fort was in really rough shape, and they mostly used it as a storage facility until 1835. During this time, there was the Second Seminole War, and the fort started being used as a prison. The Seminoles were the first of the prisoners here. The famous war chief Osceola was held prisoner here and he was actually decapitated.
There?
Yes.
That is crazy.
Isn't that awful?
I did not know that.
Yeah, he was. Another chief named Uchi Billy was also captured and decapitated.
How did they decapitate people back then? Did they just use the
maybe like a sword?
Oh, you think so?
Yeah.
Did they have what's the thing called? Guillotine? Did they have that?
No, I don't think so.
No.
I can't think of it being used then, but maybe they did.
Yeah.
But I guess decapitation was their method of choice. Probably, I don't know why. Just seems terrible. It's a terrible way to go.
Gruesome.
It is. Leader Coacuche was also held prisoner here. He and 19 others actually freed themselves. So he was
so they broke out,
brave.
Essentially?
Yeah. He was brave and not scared. I'd be scared if 2 other people had previously been decapitated, but he didn't let that stop him.
Well, you got nothing going for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to escape before I get decapitated.
You're right. It was like a last resort. So in 1875, they had the new goal to assimilate the Native Americans. They called the prisoners that were held there, and they called the prisoners Florida Boys. Lieutenant Richard Henry Pratt was super excited about the program to assimilate Native Americans and stated the goal was to, in quotation marks, kill the Indian in him and save the man. So they really just wanted to basically take away everything that made them who they are and turn them into these little Christian citizens, probably.
Yeah.
In 1883, the area started getting super touristy, and sadly, the Native Americans were the cause of the touristiness. They were the reason the tourists came, if that makes sense. Then, because they were held captive, in the program. So basically, there was this program which took the Native American prisoners and tried to assimilate them to be the Florida Boys, and that was where they turned them, basically to Christian or whatever. And because they were held captive there while this process was occurring, the tourists came to look at them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The Native Americans were allowed to leave on excursions. Otherwise, they were kept there. They were taught to read, write, and speak English, along with getting a Christian education. And during this time, the War Department made a request to restore the fort. So in 1886, this was a really, really difficult time. They had 500 or more captives from the Chiricahua and Warm Springs Apache. Sorry if I'm not saying that right. These were Arizona Native Americans, basically. These were their tribes. It was severely overcrowded because the fort was only made to hold 150, and it was holding over 500. And because of this, the prisoners were kept in tents on the fort's gun deck. So,
what?
Up top?
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically
up
top.
Got a view.
Yeah, I guess, right? Some fresh air, maybe?
Yeah, were they bolted down in the tents? They couldn't come out of the tents or anything? Or?
Well, they could probably come out. They just couldn't leave the fort.
You know what, though? You could easily escape that fort. Them walls weren't it wasn't a straight up and down. It was more I don't know, a 95-degree angle.
Yeah, but they're probably patrolling. And then, you got kids and a wife there. You got to have your kids escape, and you got the little baby crying.
Yeah, he don't want to jump, so he's going to just...
And let everyone know that you're there. It's not as easy as just,
no, you're right.
Let me go over this wall. So, as I was saying, it was really crowded. So they took the kids from the fort and they sent them to the Carlisle school. They had previously promised that the kids weren't going to be separated from their parents, but now they were. So that's really sad.
Yeah, that sucks.
Especially because over 25% of the kids who were sent to the school ended up dying of disease. So the parents may never have seen them again. And if the kids did make it back, their parents might not be alive because over a third of the adult prisoners died as well.
From the same thing?
Probably from disease, poor nutrition,
yeah,
that sort of thing.
What kind of diet were they having over there?
I'm not sure of the types of food they were given, but I can't imagine it was anything great. Especially because, the Native Americans they would hunt and fish and gather, but they can't do that when they're locked in a fort. So they couldn't even fend for themselves, really.
Yeah.
In 1887, the prisoners were moved to Alabama to Mount Vernon Barracks, and in 1894, they were moved again to Fort Sill in Oklahoma. And I don't know, what happened with their kids at that time. If they were returned, or if the kids were still separated, or what.
They probably didn't care, man. They just sent them off.
They probably didn't. They stayed there in Fort Sill until 1914 when they were either moved to a reservation in New Mexico or sent to allotments in Oklahoma. So, there's a lot of sad energy, I can imagine.
Oh, yeah.
Just because of all the death and the separation and all of that. By 1933, the fort was decommissioned and today it is managed by the National Park Service. The fort was destined to be haunted, from being built on ground with spilled blood to the many deaths during the sieges to the hundreds of Native Americans that were imprisoned here. I will say, we went, I didn't see anything haunted.
No.
Granted, we were there during the day, and there was a bajillion people.
Yeah, I didn't get any creepy vibes from anything though.
No. I also don't know if I really remembered this information at the time that we went.
Yeah.
And now that I'm talking about it, I don't remember any of this information being given on the tours.
No. Well, we self-toured. There wasn't anything.
No, but there was no markers or really anything about it that I can imagine or that I can remember.
No. There's really not many placards.
No, it just kind of discussed the weapons and
where the soldiers slept.
I guess it was
where the prison was.
Yeah. I guess it was a very idolized example. They just talked about the victories and stuff, not the sadness.
Yeah, and the slavery and all that stuff.
Yeah. They left a lot of stuff out, clearly. As I was saying, they're, destined to be haunted. There are a few reported stories of specific hauntings. This first story to me seems more like a story that maybe had some truth to it, but has since been romanticized or propagandied. I don't even think that's a word, but the story goes that Chief Osceola was imprisoned here during the Second Seminole War. He was supposedly in poor health before being captured, but I'm sure that part of the issue came from being kept in such poor conditions.
Yeah.
Lack of food, that sort of thing. It said that he had chronic malaria, tonsillitis, and he developed abscesses as well. So, Chief Osceola formed a friendship with the doctor, but he sadly died 3 months after due to quinsy, which is an infection in the back of the throat.
So it sounds like he had some throat issues.
Yes.
He had tonsillitis?
Yeah, he probably would have benefited from a tonsillectomy. This would have been me back in the day with my bad tonsils.
Yeah, that's how you would have went out.
Yeah, I probably would have. Now, this is where the story gets a little weird, because you know how I said, he was beheaded?
Yeah.
Well, this story says that the doctor beheaded the chief rather than him being beheaded as execution. And he decided to keep his head as a memento. And he preserved the head and then displayed it in his drugstore, which is just...
That sounds too
disgusting
bizarre.
And disrespectful, if it's true. And also just bizarre. The chief is said to haunt the grounds due to the trauma his corpse received. I know that some tribes, and I don't know if the Seminole Native Americans believe this, but some Native Americans believe that a person has to be buried with all of their body parts in order to like transition over.
Mm-hmm.
So not having his head would then be seen as an incomplete burial, hence him kind of haunting the grounds. Visitors report headless apparitions and unexplained shadows, and the temperature frequently drops and they may hear disembodied voices.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Another frequently mentioned haunting is the result of a love triangle, which I feel like there's always a love triangle at these haunted places.
It seems like it, man.
In 1784, Colonel Garcia Marti, can we pause a minute? I just feel like I have to mention this every time I see this word. Why is colonel spelled like colonel? I looked this up once. I do actually know the reason. It had to do with like the original spelling, and then the U.S. wanted to change it to, make it U.S. or whatever, and we ended up with colonel being colonel. But I just think that's dumb.
There's a lot of stupid words that are spelled all stupid.
There's not even an R in here, and you say colonel.
What are you going to do?
Bitch about it every time I see
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. Anyway. So Colonel Garcia Marti and his wife Dolores arrived at St. Augustine. He was assigned a captain named Manuel Abela. The wife was unhappy in her relationship with the colonel due to mistreatment and neglect, so she turned to Manuel. The colonel was greeting his captain one day, and he noticed the smell of his wife's perfume. Without any investigation, he assumed an affair was occurring, and the two lovers went missing. The colonel said that his wife went back home after becoming ill and was staying with her aunt, and he said that the captain was sent on a special assignment. More likely that he killed them.
Well, no one knows?
No, we know, but that's just what I'm saying. Like, did people really believe that his wife just went off and so did this other guy?
Yeah, no.
The two were never seen again until a man discovered a secret room while exploring the Castillo. He heard a hollow sound coming from the wall and removed some bricks, and he found two skeletons chained to the wall. Why was this not on the tour?
The only secret room I saw was the gunpowder room.
Yeah. Where was this room? Why is this not talked about?
That's insane. So those were the bodies then?
Yep.
You chained them to a wall and they just died in there.
It's thought to be that those are the remains of the two lovers, and the husband locked them in the room until they died of starvation and dehydration.
That is horrible.
What a horrible way to go. And what a find.
Yeah.
And why is this not mentioned? I would have loved to see this room. Maybe the room is still hidden. I don't know. Today, people say that they smell a sweet, flowery perfume similar to what Dolores probably wore. There is also a woman seen in a white dress, and this may be Dolores. They may also feel as if they're being watched, and some people speculate that that's the husband watching suspiciously. The final specific story is of an unidentified man. He was first seen by someone taking a photo who saw a figure walking over the drawbridge. The man waited to take the photo until the figure had passed, but he realized that the man had actually disappeared. Others have seen this man pacing back and forth on the walls, and it's thought that he's possibly a soldier still protecting the fort in the afterlife.
That is cool.
How cute. Other assorted hauntings include Seminole Native Americans leaping from the walls, maybe trying to escape. They may see Spanish soldiers patrolling. Shadow figures are common. Lights glowing in the watchtower. And sometimes they'll see Spanish soldiers standing at the edge of the fortress and staring out over the water. In the dungeon, which we did go in there,
yep,
there have been temperature changes, shadow figures, and some people have even felt hands touching them.
All right.
Guys, I highly recommend going to St. Augustine and definitely visit the fort, even if what they give you on the tour does not include a lot of the history.
Yeah. I mean, they do have a lot of guided tours. There was a lot of people there that were like being, brought around.
That's true. I wonder if those would have been more in depth. But either way, it was still a great experience.
Yeah.
Just because it was cool to see, the like prison room and where the soldiers would have slept and whatnot.
I would have loved to see that secret room, man.
I think now we need to go back to the fort with this new knowledge. One, so that we can be more open to experiencing the hauntings. And 2, so that we can see if there's any mention of the fort, not of the fort, of the hidden room or of the beheadings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's also not, I don't think it was that expensive to go.
Well, wasn't like $40, like $20 a person or something like that?
But I think the ticket was good for like a whole month or something.
I think so, yeah.
But I love St. Augustine. That place there's just so much history.
Mm-hmm.
But guys, if you're wanting to go look at the cemeteries, which I was, it's like every third Saturday they're open from like 10 to 2. Very limited hours.
And there's spikes on the fences so you can't jump them.
No, you can't. I also didn't want to get arrested.
Yeah, there's that too.
This just seems like they would maybe arrest you over that.
Yeah, there's a good chance.
Anyway, we'll definitely post some pictures. Maybe even some that we took of the of the fort. Because I thought we took some pictures there, and I think I take good pictures.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Well, guys, thanks for listening. I'll be sure to put in the description all the ways you can contact us. We'd love to hear from you if you've ever had any experiences at any of these places. Those would be super cool to hear. If you have any recommendations for us, questions, comments, concerns, we have Instagram, YouTube, and Gmail. Those are the ways you could probably contact us. So that'll be in the description of this podcast.
Yep.
All right, until next time.
All right, see ya.
Bye.